take the back seats. Over here, if you could just. Right. So good morning, everyone. That was dead. Good morning, everyone. Yes, that's more. This 92nd edition of the Zach World of Facades Conference. This is our third edition in Kuwait. Kuwait is always a special place, personally, for me to come. It's a very unique country in the Middle East with some nice architectural projects over here. So I'll give a quick brief about the Zach World of Facades Conference for those who are attending it for the first time. And switched, not working. So, as I mentioned, this is the 92nd global edition, our third edition in Kuwait. We started the Zach World of Facades Conference back in 2012. It's grown from strength to strength across different countries, across different continents. We are doing events in 34 countries around the globe. We finished around 30 countries. Last week was our 30th country in Toronto in Canada. It was a fabulous restaurant happen. We had a washout in 2020 as an event organizer, was very difficult for us, the 2020 year. But 2021, we're slowly clearing the backlog which we have. So a lot of lessons learned as an event organizer, as human beings, as individuals, as companies. I hope we can implement things only look upward from now. So as I mentioned, what happened to the screen? Yeah, okay. So numerous delays due to the pandemic. A presenting part Glass, it's an American company, very popular here in the Middle East. Future Architectural Glass is a value-added glass processor out of the United Arab Emirates with a lot of Kuwaiti project reference in group. Ozone is a glass door, window, facade hardware manufacturer based out of India. Serge Ferrari is a French fabric manufacturer which help you design high-performance thermal insulation solutions, polyamide strips, warm edge spacers to better the energy performance. Orga Data are our extremely thankful for our event partners. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to do this event. What's special about today's event? Having a transformation of building codes. So one of the key focuses, apart from high performance facade design, is the new MEW code by eminent speakers over here. And also fire safety. You can never disregard fire safety. Human life is important, so fire safety in this country. So we have a very interesting agenda, mix of speakers from local and from the region talking on different projects. Phones on silent. We will not be taking any Q&A, so we will have the presentation straight up. And once we are done with the presentations, if there are any questions for our speakers, you're more than welcome to catch them in the break and ask the questions. Our manufacturing partners who are presenting today, please meet our manufacturers. They've been waiting long to meet you all in person. It's because of them we've been able to do these kind of grand events all across the globe. That's it from me. I'd like to call upon today's event host, my colleague Amro Hassan. So he's going to be taking today's session forward. So over to you, Amro.
The building codes and how the Kuwaiti building code are building envelopes to achieve sustainability and safety targets together. I really hope that we'll all take away from today some insights and welcoming our keynote speaker who will be talking about building skins, a 50-year legacy from the commitment to vernacular design, moving to the future of ethical sustainability.
Hello. I think you caught me by surprise. I just spilled the water all over myself, but anyway. Great to see so many people in the room and a lot of old friends here and after such a long time. So it's good to meet everybody again. Very firm of architects, Bahrain, organizations we work with more in the funding agencies. We're very lucky to have won some great awards of late. The presentation today is to actually take you through a little bit of our legacy and history in facades and skins of buildings. On the MEW requirements, but then Mr. Farid Gumlas, I think, is going to do a much better presentation to explain that in detail, and so my technical knowledge. So from I guess from the inception of PACE, we've always considered the climatic conditions that we work under, as you can imagine. Over time, PACE at the beginning used a lot of precast and bush-hammered concrete, small punched windows, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But then over time, you see improvements in technology and materiality develop and change the way that I'll show you some of those case studies. Before, doesn't work. And this influences later on the work that we do at PACE as well. Then another building southwest with just this small wall to use and make sure that they're in conjunction with each other and work together. We do a little bit of experimentation. This is the aspect of and we were lucky enough to collaborate with the offices of the glazing out to the area around them. And then you get this beautiful daylight completed till post-invasion Kuwait, which is the Arab Organizations building. This houses the Arab Fund, OAPEC, I believe, and on this very deep punched windows. Though you think they may be small, they're actually, when you're inside the office space, these windows are quite large. Eating on each elevation is different. And then you get to the north facade, which has, at the time, I believe, the largest curtain. But here, we've moved to stone. So now it's a ventilated facade in granite, which has its own advantage control while you're here at site and having a lot of waste. Office had a person stationed in. So with the advent of different early 90s, we started to see a lot of wanted to mold this facade. The building on the right is the limestone building, top to bottom. It has only the base in stone, and then the rest starts when we started using aluminium cladding, Alucobond. So I'm very confused about these buttons, so if I keep going backwards and forwards, just don't mind me. Coming back now into the 2015, 16, though, the design of this building started building this very, let's say, pronounced image on the skyline, very clear, defined shape. Here, windows, which have extremely, they have stone louvers going across the windows there to help sun control. It's a diagrid system, so these are steel pipes with concrete, and they're actually acting as the structure as well, and they're holding the floors. An interesting system that we were very happy to work with HOK on that. A lot of issues with stone, usually each and every panel. What's interesting to me as well is this, it's the main entrance. You ever get a chance to quite a delicate construct to do, because there's the fixing and then there's the actual way that they're put together and the installation on site. It's very dramatic. It's lit naturally. So it was really interesting to see if you ever get a chance to go see that. So you can see some of the fixing point bolts on the back, and with there's glass on the front and back. And then there's an outer skin towards that. So then we move on to some of our more recent projects, Asama building. So here, this is a facade that's mimicking the what's happening inside the building. The building is, in the end, retail building in the inside, so not a lot of space for windows. And the stone panels are, they're these unitized systems which are controlled on the ground, then lifted up. As a fifth facade, bringing this technology with Gensler at the time of Avenues 3. This was the first time it was actually brought to Kuwait. It was quite a difficult project. In this structure have large span. This ETFE we presented to the KFD multiple times. We had it tested here in Kuwait, design passed. Otherwise, we would have started to have much heavier steel trusses across this outdoor experience. ETFE is 80% gray dots, sunlight's passing through, and it's spans with quite a lightweight structure. And coming forward was designed also around the same time as Avenues Phase 3, and is now absolutely coming together on 20, 30 years later of working with SOM in the mid-80s. Again, we're working with them on this multiple assets the museum, but this main building here is the admin building. So we're not actually doing a double skin facade here, and with SOM to establish the screens are quite light. They sit in front of this, mainly the glazed facade where the offices are, and each building has its own identity, each building has its own calligraphy, so it really gives, I think, something new to the whole campus. And so I went the wrong way as usual. And then something that's under permitting now, it's quite an interesting building because we have multiple usages within it. It's mainly a training institute for the banks, basically. They have an institute where they all pour money in and they train their staff in one entity. Then training institute, then offices. Daylight, as you can imagine, when you work in offices, you want this daylight. And we've been able to do that, unite the surfaces, which also has the vertical louvers in front. And then we talk, and hopefully this will start construction last quarter of 2022. So one of the first case, I've grown up with it, I've seen it all my life, was working with the JW Marriott renovation. And glass, which is specific glass, I think they purchased in Switzerland in the late 70s with this gold, special gold paint on the back. I think we wanted to update the materials, improve the performance of the building with to work with this client. So we have the before and after, and it's an interesting kind of exercise, other than the design exercise and what's going inside and the renovation we're doing with the hotel, etc. The challenge previously, so now we're adding a hotel as well as a new entrance to the mall as a main entrance. And we also wanted to see how could we divide the elements. So the elements were pretty simple on this building. We divided up into skybox, the boxes, and way to Salhi Mall. So I know very simplistic diagrams, but just to show you what the elements we were actually starting to do now. This is the old version with the aluminum cladding. Then we're just taking this one box, similar opening. The client requested that each hotel room must have an open operable window, however small. And so we're basically taking these boxes off. We're going to have a drop off here for both. Actually, start seeing now we've actually put the metal trusses which along there are starting to be installed. And the skybox, skybox, if some of you remember, there is this kind of funny shape to it, but when you're in the ballroom, you can almost see down and clip it back into shape. So that is, by entities were different. And some brand names, etc., is also quite sure. All of you here are far more expert at this than I am, but a lot of energy efficient strategies that you must look at on a day-to-day basis, orientation and protecting opaque parts of the building. These may look small, they're actually it is from the outside building, but also to make sure that we can see what's coming into the building. I think they can very much appreciated. They're a little bit more stringent, but they do help in lowering the loads that we require for buildings. And they've reducing the the U values, reducing the shading coefficients, reducing the wattage per square meters that we can use in calculating tonnage for HVAC. So this impacts, both the build-up wall systems, the open to building costs. So this is something we have to think about with clients about that. So some of the things that I think that will do, it does say in some argon fill rather than normal fill. This also adds to cost, but I'm not sure as well how the vision part of it will happen with increase. The different layers we have to do, whether in the glass thermal coatings, and do we then start to see more darker shades of glass throughout the country, ones or different types of insulation we may have to use, and beef up this external envelope. So just some things to consider. Codes, going forward with that. In a story, when we look at our Palace of Justice from the client, there's a lot of in a way. So we have two towers. There's a central plaza at the top, which is an urban plaza that kind of mediates between the institutional buildings of the commercial stuff that's happening behind it. Here as well, wherever you go into this geode, we call it, the hexagon shaped, and look towards each other. So you have the courts on the right side, which is So on this outside solid part, we do have these very strong strip windows, depending on which side of the building are, how deep this window is inset. And at the top of the building, we have these geodes as well as the ones, sorry, the interior aspect of that. So that's the outside. Sorry. Yep, I'm there. Yes. Sorry about that. We're very lucky to work with Misha from Friedman here on this facade. It's a very, the building was very fast tracked. They wanted to execute in a quick manner. We wanted to make sure build up in a unitized system and make sure that we could sort of modulates with the room dimensions that we have across the court, whether it's a courtroom or stone on one side and then glass on the other. So the components, have different depths, as I mentioned, depending on which side of the building they are, and this is some of the details. Obviously, everything designed in Revit. Gives it an iconic identity. It's unitized. I should mention the stone system. At the end of the day, the contractor opted out of unitized stone on the front of the building, but kept it on this side of the building. So in the end, the team managed to consolidate these from, I think there was 6 to 8 different shapes to 4, so that it was easy to be able to construct. And as you see on site, it's already going up quite fast. I think we're just missing some materials. I'm sure you're all facing challenges with getting materials to Kuwait at this time. So the end, as I mentioned, we have 4 different modules, one at different angles, different shapes, and they come together to create this sort of dynamic facade. As a level, looking up, and here we have our 5th kind of facade, which is the skywalk, which sits next to this. Lobbies, we have just a plain plain stick system glazing going top to bottom, which sit next glazing system. So here we're trying to explain to the contractor how to bring all these different systems together. We have the flat glass at the elevator lobby area, then we have the